Hi, so I recently did a video on my 30-day carnivore diet experience, and at the end of the video I was going back and forth about whether or not I was going to continue, and I decided to continue because I came off of it and did not like how my body responded. So I think I'm going to try to go a little bit longer. But in any case, you may be wondering, what am I eating? I'll jump straight into it. Some people that do the carnivore diet, they stick to the strictest version, which is just beef, salt, and water. That is not what I am doing. I am eating a variety of meats and also seafood. So I have had ribeye steaks, and I typically cook that up in just some butter or beef tallow or bacon grease. Whatever I have on hand, I use that. Now, we are a family of 8, so I cannot afford to sit and eat ribeyes every day, all day. So that is why I had to incorporate a variety of meats. Plus, for just the mental aspect, I don't know, for me, I just couldn't sit and eat the same thing, or I would prefer not to. So I also had ground beef, and my local Aldi's has the grass-fed beef at a fairly reasonable price. So I would do the ground beef, either just, crumple it up in the pan, or I would make meatballs, or I would make hamburger patties. And I think for me, even though I was eating the same thing, I think cooking it in a variety of ways really helped with the mental aspect of it. So for the meatballs, I would just use pork rinds, the epic pork rinds, crumple it up, and with some eggs, and add some salt and a little bit of onion powder, and make the meatballs with, of course, the ground beef. I also had a lot of organ meats, mainly liver, beef liver. I am thankful because I have a farm probably like 20 to 30 minutes away from where I live, and I'm able to go there and get like organ meats, which is fairly inexpensive in comparison to like buying steaks and other grass-fed beef. So I, went and I got a lot of beef liver. And I think a lot of people are turned off to the taste of liver, and I honestly don't mind it. And one of the things that I do to make it more palatable, so what I do is I cut it up into really small pieces, and then I saute it in the pan. And I think the trick is to cut it up into small pieces, and sometimes I'll even mix in some bacon. So I had beef liver. I also purchased some lamb kidney, which was actually quite tasty. That was my first time having it, and it was pretty good. I also had chicken heart, and again, in comparison to buying like steaks every day, this was really reasonable. I also purchased a beef heart, and tried to keep it very simple in terms of like just preparing these different things. I also had bone marrow and bought the bones again from this farmer, and what I would do is just season the bone with salt, pop it in the oven, and cook it for like 25 to 30 minutes at about 375 to 400, one of those, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now that by itself was not a meal. I would often mix in some eggs with that too, and probably some ground beef. And to me, it was delicious. I also had bone broth. I, again, got bones from this farm, and the next time I go back, I'm actually going to get some chicken feet as well, because that has a lot of the collagen in it. But I would make bone broth, and sometimes I would even have a egg drop soup with the bone broth. Just warm it up and crack an egg in there, and the water's, the broth is so warm that, it'll cook the egg, and sprinkle some salt in, and that's, to me, was absolutely delicious. I also had, like I said, seafood. I would cook, shrimp, and I also, how can I forget? Let me backtrack. I also had bacon, and I was able to get sugar-free bacon, which to me, the taste isn't significantly different from the bacon that has sugar in it. And maybe it's because my palate has changed so much, but it was delicious to me. So onto the seafood, I would often I would have shrimp as well, wild caught shrimp, and cook that up in whatever cooking fat I had on hand. And I also had sardines because, like I said, it can get pretty pricey. I also had canned sardines, and I prepared that in a variety of ways. I would have it as a sardine patty, and again, crumple up, same format as the meatballs. Crumple up some pork rinds and incorporate some eggs in there, and just smush it all up and make a patty and fry it on the stovetop. And that was delicious. Other times I would just have the sardines straight out of the can, kind of crush it up a bit and put some seasonings on there and eat it with pork rinds. So the same thing, but prepared in different ways, actually really helped me mentally. I did have tuna. Now I will say this, sometimes with the sardines I mixed in some mayo, and the mayo was made with olive oil, which is not considered as carnivore, but again, whatever. Didn't really have a response to that, so I'm thinking that I'm okay, and if that's considered cheating, I'm good. Still had great results. In terms of things to drink, other than the bone broth, I just had water, and if I was feeling low on energy, I would sprinkle in some salt, and that seemed to have been helpful. So occasionally I had tea, but I think that was probably like 3 or 4 times over the course of the 30 days. But for the most part, I really just stuck to drinking water or having bone broth. And my cooking fats, like I mentioned, was tallow, bacon grease, and the Kerrygold butter. And then, of course, I would use olive oil for the mayo, but that's not something that I did frequently. As far as dairy is concerned, as much as I enjoy dairy, I realized that if I consumed too much, that I would experience bloating. So I think going forward, I really have to treat dairy as an occasional treat and not something that I incorporate in my diet to get fat from. So, hey, it's not what I prefer in terms of having to eliminate it, but what am I gonna do? It is what it is, right? So that is pretty much it. I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and if you have done the carnivore diet or are still doing the carnivore diet, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear, what is your favorite meal? What's your go-to meal? And do you stick with the strictest form of carnivore, or do you eat a variety of meats? All right, that is the end. And again, I hope this video was helpful. You be blessed.